they can still see your content, get to your pledge pages, listen to your audio. It's also great for integrating and having more complete analytics data. So now your data from your mobile site will be included in your site information. So it's not like you're going to have two separate sites. It's going to be all together. So you can see where people are coming from on mobile, where people are coming from on desktop, and see those numbers added together as well. It's good for social and sharing across devices. So if you have Core Publisher in the modular side now or the River side now, it might not be the best way to share on if you're on a mobile device, but now we have made it so it's optimized to share no matter where you are. It's easier to manage the site from one admin and one code base. So if you do have a Core Publisher site now that has a mobile device, a mobile version of your site, that mobile version actually has a different code base. You guys might not know that, but we do have to manage that separately. So now with responsive, it's all going to be one code base. It's great for search. Google actually recommends and rewards responsive design sites. So they come up better in search on Google. They actually have a section under your website that says, oh, it's mobile friendly. So that is something that's very important when it comes to search engine optimization. And we've included that in the responsive design. There are some goals that we had originally set out for the responsive project. Aaron Martin was very open to share these with stations over the past year, but I'm just going to reiterate what those goals are. We wanted to offer a responsive theme that benefits stations and that has kind of all things all done well. We don't want to just have a really good listening experience but not have the best visual. We want to make sure that it's a well-rounded responsive project. We want to provide stations with flexibility. Okay. Oh, I got a message here that my slides are not moving with me. Let me know if you guys aren't seeing the slide right now. It says goals for responsive. All right, let me take a step back here. It looks like my slides are frozen on you guys. All right. Let me know if everyone can see the slide that says goals for responsive. Anyone able to see it? Let's see. Just going to go back a slide or two and see if that brings back the slide for you guys. All right, anyone seeing it now? Still not seeing it. Sorry for those technical difficulties. I'm going to go back and just change one more thing and see if that helps. You guys stand by for 1 second here. Make sure that we're sharing. It's an iterative process. It's something that we are constantly updating over time, just like we have been doing with Core Publisher in general. So we want to make sure we keep that in mind, and top of mind for stations. So we want to get things to you as quickly as we can. And that's one of the reasons why we were kind of encouraging stations to move forward with signing up for a cycle, because the more stations we can get into responses, the more feedback we can get, and then the more changes we can make in the iterative process. We did work with stations as well to get a good understanding of not only what is important for core publisher stations, but what's important for stations that are not core publisher stations. So the core publisher advisory group included stations that were maybe not on core publisher, but they were also looking into creating a responsive design for their site as well. So we got a lot of feedback, varied feedback from stations of all walks during the core publisher advisory group. And we also have gotten a lot of feedback from our first wave of stations. We have had 2 cycles completed so far, which we've had 24 stations that have gone live in the responsive theme. And so far we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. We have gotten some feedback about some concerns, and we have taken those concerns and the good things into account, and we have been making changes in the development cycle to accommodate for that. We're going to continue to have ongoing feedback sessions with stations as we go along in the process. You'll probably hear from myself or Adam Carrick at the end of your cycle to just get some feedback on what you think once it's live. One of the things that we're focusing our attention on first is the listening experience. So many of you have heard about the persistent player. We're really excited about getting that out into your hands and seeing it live on site. So our development team has been really focused on working on the persistent player right now. A few other things, just as I mentioned before, we are continuing to work in an iterative development process, and that's continued with the responsive theme. So you're going to notice we focused on the highest value things first. That doesn't mean that we're not going to focus on other things in the future, but we are focused on the listening experience. We're also focused on the display experience, how things look across the board in the design in the responsive theme. But we have decided to focus on some things first and leave others for later to focus on. We are focusing on reducing clutter so that users can easily find the content that's interesting to them, and that's one of the biggest things. We're also focused on making sure that stations have the ability to have that flexibility. So we have learned a lot from stations so far. We have learned a lot about the analytics. In general, for the stations that have gone live, we saw increases in traffic from organic search. We also see changes in weeks immediately following core publisher changes in their direct visits as increases. More visits included in story content than before, and listening to inline audio has also increased. Streaming has remained steady, and that's one of the things that we're really trying to focus on, because the listening experience for streaming has stayed the same. You have a Listen Live button where you can listen to the audio, but we want to make sure that that streaming experience increases as we add in the persistent player. This is just a quote from Austin at KBIA. Just in looking at his numbers from last year around the same time after he launched, his numbers for sessions and users increased. You can see here he's seeing absolutely massive period over period growth, and he feels that it's attributed a lot to the new digital strategy based on responsive web design. And you can see the numbers here. His sessions have gone up 85%. And his users 93%. You can see the number that it was last year around that same time, December through January, and what it is now. He switched over in our last cycle, and it's gone up quite a bit. So this is just a really good success that we've seen so far, and we're looking at stations across the board. We're not just looking at one station versus another, but we want to see what these analytics show us over time across the board as well. We've also learned a few things that we needed to work on from stations. Editors so far have liked the experience because the workflow hasn't changed very much. Stations are pleased with the flexibility and effectiveness of the new homepage blocks, and users are pleased and can find content fairly easily. Some of the things that we've noticed that we've gotten feedback from stations that are not so great, one of the things that we changed in responsive design to kind of fit with where responsive sites are going overall was to shrink the header on the inner pages. This is something that will help the content move up the page, so we decided to shrink the headers on the inner pages just to make sure that the content is more prevalent. We got feedback from stations that they didn't find that this feature was helpful for them, and that it might be something that negatively impacts their branding. And so with that feedback, we made changes, and now we provide an option to stations to configure their header. So you can keep the header height the same on every page, or if you want, and you want your content to kind of go higher up on the page, you can choose to shrink it on those inner pages. So now we've given stations the flexibility to control that, and that came directly from feedback. So thank you so much for sharing that feedback with us. All right, I'm just going to take a second here to stop and see if anyone has any questions before I move forward. All right, no questions. I'm going to keep going. So some of the things that we are taking kind of into account are the changes and the things that you're used to seeing in Core Publisher. Some of the things that are going to stay the same are your content types. You're still going to have the same content types, so you'll be able to create pages, posts, topic pages, programs, people, and music, live events, web clips, and promotional blocks. So you will continue to have those features in Core Publisher. That's going to stay the same. And that's really important because your people that actually use Core Publisher, content creators, they're going to have the same kind of workflow when it comes to that. There are some small things that are going to change on the post page, and we will talk about that during our trainings. So you guys will have some more flexibility with images on post pages, which is great. But overall, your content types are going to stay the same kind of content that you're used to delivering in Core Publisher. When you're thinking about your content types and what kind of content you're creating for the site, you want to make sure that you're focusing on either growing a new audience, which requires quality storytelling as the foundation, knowing what makes your content unique, kind of sticking to what things your site does well, crafting content for different media, amplifying content, cross-promoting, and engaging with new communities aligned with your content. And that's what really helps to grow unique visitors. If your approach is more focused on deepening your loyalty and your engagement, you might want to focus on some of those similar things, but have more in-depth storytelling and have variety of angles and series. So these things are going to continue to be the same for you. We recommend looking at our editorial services, our editorial blogs. They have great training for stations when it comes to content creation. But we just wanted to make sure that stations were aware that your content is still your content. And that's going to remain the focus for Core Publisher, no matter what theme you have or design. There are some things that have changed, some features that you guys are used to having in Core Publisher that we have either migrated to using something else and have found a replacement for it, or we'll be finding a replacement coming forward in the next couple of months. So the Now Playing block and the NPR News blocks, or if you are using your own local category blocks, those are going to continue to be used in Core Publisher in the responsive theme. The Now Playing blocks and the category blocks like the NPR News blocks, they are in the pipeline and they are going to be worked on this year with our development team. So just to make you aware, when you start your Core Publisher site now, you will, if you're in this cycle, you will not have a Now Playing block, but we have found several stations have found ways to highlight their now playing information in varied ways, and we'll go over that during training. Same goes for the NPR News block. Skyboxes, sticky strips, announcement blocks, and your program promo block. We have created a new promotional block and new news blocks that will take us a much farther way than those old skyboxes, sticky strips, announcement blocks, and program promotional blocks did. So what we have done is we heard back from a lot of stations. We did a great deal of usability testing, and we found out what people were using those skyboxes, sticky strips, and announcement blocks for. And what we did was create something that we feel gives you more flexibility, gives you more ability to do those things that you were doing in those places, and do it in a more graceful way. So we'll talk about the new promotional blocks and how to use them very in detailed in our training. But it's something that we have not included in the responsive theme. These blocks will not be included, but we do have replacement blocks for them. The people block, we did a lot of testing on to see how the people block was being used, and also what people thought of the people block during our usability testing. And we did some analytics on that block as well, and we found that the people block wasn't driving engagement on the site. And so we have chosen not to include the people block in the responsive theme at this time. There are ways that you can highlight your people. I know one station created a people tab in their navigation, and they are linking to their people page there, and they felt that that was a good replacement. So we'll talk through other ways that you can use the current features in Core Publisher to highlight your people as well. Another block that people have been talking a lot about is the feature content rotator, or what some people call the carousel. We did a lot of usability testing on this block as well, and we found that it does perform less well than the lead stories block, but it does have a very similar purpose. And so now that we have created new feature blocks, we feel that the feature content rotator, what you were able to do there, is something that you can accomplish in the new blocks that we've created. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm just going to show you a few examples of how some of the stations are using the feature content block, how some of the stations are using the blocks that we have right now that are live in our Core Publisher site, and some different ways that they're accomplishing some of what they used to do on their site using those other blocks. So I'm just going to show you a few examples quickly, and then we'll look at some other aspects of the new design. Okay, so you should be seeing here on my screen, let me know if you're not able to see it, but you should see here, this is how some of our stations that are live are creating some station promotional tools using the new blocks that we have. We have here Michigan Radio, who has a State of Opportunity website that they're promoting here on their site. They also have the ability to still do that program promotion, so you can use the promotional blocks that you're seeing here in yellow to promote some of the things that are happening there at your station, or to promote some of your programming. Pledge promotion can also be accomplished using some of the new blocks. So you can see here, HPPR is focusing on their Valentine promotion that they're doing pledge. It's another example of pledge promotion. Stations can still promote their events as well. I know some stations have asked specifically about the events calendar. The events calendar, if you currently are using it, is still accessible in the responsive theme. You will have the ability to do that and to link to it using the promotional blocks or your navigation or your footer. And here's another example of a way to promote your news content, so to highlight specific stories. This is kind of similar to the lead stories blocks that you guys used to have, you're used to having in your current design. And there's several different ways to promote news. And we're going to go over this in great detail during your cycle and training as well. Big central stories, smaller stories in the sidebar. You can choose to have one column, two column, three column layout. That's one of the big things that's different in the responsive theme. So you have flexibility with the layout manager. Previously, if you are a modular homepage station, you might notice that some of the blocks are specific to the left column or the right rail or the middle column. With the responsive theme, the layout has total flexibility, so you can put any block in any column, which is a big change for stations. We also, this is kind of the replacement for the sticky strip. It's called an announcement here, persistent announcement. You have it across the top of your screen, and you can continue to see this message throughout the site. So that's something that's very similar to the sticky strip that we have in the current design. So those are just a few examples of how we are incorporating some of that content and how you can showcase some of your content in a new way in the responsive theme. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how your header and footer have changed a bit in the responsive theme. So for stations, we have definitely given a lot more thought to the header in responsive. You actually now have the ability to control the header on your own. So previously you had to submit a design ticket if you wanted to change out your masthead or change the image out. Now with responsive, you actually have a header admin, so you can go in and upload your own logos, your own images. We will provide stations with a kind of cheat sheet on image specs for responsive. For your responsive theme switching for the first time, so you can be ready for launch, what we've done is we have taken your existing header and your logo, and we have placed it into a responsive theme backstage site, so you can see what that's going to look like before it goes live. You'll have access to your backstage site along the way during the cycle, and that's where you'll do most of your work to kind of practice and see how these new blocks will look on your site. And I'll talk a little bit more about backstage later. But we have already done this for you, so you don't have to worry about it now. But if you want to change that logo or you want to change that image out in the future once your site is live in the new theme, you have the flexibility to go in and change that now. Your header design will adjust depending on the size of your device screen. Core Publisher automatically resizes those images for you on the pages based on page breaks. So if someone is on a smaller device, if someone switches to a different layout for their device, we handle those page break image changes for you. So you don't have to worry about where the break points are for your masthead or your header design. Your header design will adjust depending on the size of your device. So Core Publisher will automatically do that for you. And this is just an example of Wyoming Public Media, their masthead, and how it looks different based on the header, based on the size of the device. So this is a header on desktop. This is a header on tablet. and these are headers on mobile. The footer has also changed. You may be used to having that kind of extremely large 3-piece flexi footer that you have now. We have shrunken that down a bit for size and responsive. So you do still have the ability to add in partner logos. So if you are partnered, if you're a university licensee or you have any partners that you want to highlight on every page of your footer, you can continue to do that. There is a new table queue that you'll learn in your cycle training where you can enter those logos all on your own. The flexibility now is in your hands as well to enter those partner logos in. You also will have a footer area where you can add your pertinent links like your privacy policy, your EEO report, FAQ page, those links that you want to stay persistent on every page. You will continue to have that as well, and that is a new table queue as well called your auxiliary links for your footer, and we'll show you how to use those during training. Ads are also different in responsive. You're going to see that they look a little different on your pages. They also have a few new things that you're going to see. You're going to have three opportunities for a 300 by 250. Some stations now are only used to having 2, so now you will have 3. You also will still have a 728 by 90, which is usually that pencil push down or that the ad that you put right under your navigation. A lot of stations use it for pledge. You will continue to have that on desktop. On your tablet, you will have the same thing, 1 728 by 90 as well as 3 300 by 250. On your mobile, you will have 1 320 by 50. So you can have a specific ad for your mobile if you like. These are just a few examples of the ad sizes. If you're not familiar with the dimensions, these are what they look like. The pencil push down is at 720 by 90. Your mobile is that 320 by 50, and the most common is that desktop tablet 300 by 250, which you have 3 of now. You will have to continue to use DFP if you are using ads in Core Publisher. You will have to do much more of your ad configuration in your DFP account than you are currently used to doing. And we're going to cover that pretty extensively in this week's training to help you get started. The connection between Core Publisher and DFP is a little different. You're going to do your ad serving as well as now you have the opportunity to do some additional targeting, which is really exciting. So if you want to have an ad just show up on a specific program, or you only want it to show up if there's a specific tag used on a page, you have that flexibility now to use that targeting in DFP, and we'll show you how to do that in this week's training. Any questions about ads? All right. So timeline and responsibilities, you probably are wondering how long is this going to take? This is a 3-week process. The kickoff is today, so this is actually going to be your first week. We will have 2 weekly 1-hour group trainings. They will be live webinars, similar to this format, but hopefully without the technical difficulties. And they will be scheduled on Mondays and Wednesdays. If you're not able to meet those times on Mondays and Wednesdays, we will have those recordings available after the session so you can watch them at a later date. We also really encourage you to share the webinars with your station so that people that maybe they're not content creators, but they're just curious to know what the new theme switching is going to entail. We really recommend you sharing that link out to your entire station. You also will have a 1-hour check-in session option every week as well. We're going to have 2 check-in sessions. You only have to go to 1, but if the first time doesn't work for you, we're offering a second time. You also will have a final site kind of Q&A that will ask you to do in your 3rd week. So we'll ask you to take a look at your backstage, think about how your blocks are created and how you want to create those blocks on your actual live site. And then we will make your site live for you during week 3. You will have a scheduled post-launch follow-up call. So after your launch, I'm sure you're going to get tons of questions and comments from people at your stations and your users. You want to gather that information, keep those questions in a safe place, and then bring that to your post-launch follow-up call, and we will go over all of your questions with you after your site is live. You will have a little bit of homework to do each week. We want you to get familiar with the new blocks before your site is live. Make sure you know, your content creators know how to use the new image options on the post pages. So we really want you to try this out each week and make sure that you're comfortable with it before week 3 when we make your site live. So if you're thinking about the time, the check-in calls, the trainings, and then just playing around with it on your own time, you're going to have somewhere between 3 to 9 hours each week where you're going to be focused on responsive. So for station responsibilities, we will ask you if you are using ads currently to build your new DSP ad units. You don't have to recreate your ads, but you do have to create the connection to your Core Publisher site in responsive, and we'll teach you how to do that. But we will ask you to do that. You also will have to make sure that your ads are set up the way that you want them to be set up. You will have to practice using the layout manager. So for stations on the call, you might, if you're a modular homepage station, you might be familiar with the layout manager, but we do want you to practice using the new blocks in the layout manager. For stations that are River of News, this might be the first time that you're seeing the layout manager, so you definitely want to spend a lot of time getting familiar with it. We also want you to practice using those new blocks, so you know how they'll show up on your home page. You'll know how to kind of play around with the image dimensions to get it to look the way that you want. We also want to make sure that everyone at the station is aware of the change, that the change is coming, when it will go live, and what it's going to look like. And we have created something called a backstage site for every station that is in this cycle. What a backstage site is a test site for your station to use to practice using the new layout manager and the blocks. It is not going to be used for your live site launch. I'll repeat that. It is not going to be used for your live site launch. You can think of it as just a copy of your existing site that we pulled down onto a different server. So you can do whatever you want on your backstage site. It's not going to show up on your live site and vice versa. It is not an exact duplicate of your live site, so you're not going to see all of your content. It's kind of like just a snapshot. It does not have all of your images, and it does not have your NPR national content as well. So it's just really a sandbox where you can play around. You can test things out. You can get familiar with the new blocks and the new layout. And you can share it with your station. It's totally fine if you have people kind of check out backstage and see what's going on and how it's going to look. You can just let them know it is the practice site, so it's not going to look exactly the same as you're used to. Audio isn't gonna look the same either, and any past audio isn't going to work. But if you add any new audio into backstage, it will work for you, so you can test out your audio. So you guys are required to come to your weekly training sessions. We do want to make sure that you are getting familiar with everything before you go live. We want you to have a good experience with going live. So we really ask for you to commit to coming to the training cycles or watching the videos if you're not able to attend at that time. And then definitely come to the check-in calls, because we really want to hear your questions, and it's better to come and share that with the group, because there may be someone on the call that didn't even think of the question that you have, but it may benefit them. So we really want you to participate in those as well. So you will have a dedicated support manager with you during this process. It will either be myself, Janine Williamson, or Rakisha Chase, and we are here to kind of give you your initial setup, give you your backstage access, also advise you throughout the process. We are, Rakisha is your designated trainer, so she's going to be handling the training sessions, but we both will be on the check-in calls for you. And you can always ask us questions during your cycle as well. After your cycle is over, you're going to go back to the regular support system. So you would support, if you have any questions once you're live, you're going to send that through the ticketing system. So just a reminder here of our contact information. Rakisha Chase Jackson is rchase@npr.org. Janine Williamson is jwilliamson@npr.org. We will be adding additional how-to documentation throughout this cycle, so you have that as a reference once you're live, and things that you can share with your station. But definitely make sure you're sharing the webinar videos with your station throughout the process. And you can decide who should get which video after you attend the training, but we definitely want everyone to share it. All right, I've talked for quite a while. I'm sure there's some questions out there, so I'm just going to check the questions here and see if anyone has any questions about the features or about the cycle in general. Let's see. How many promotional blocks can I use at once? Oh, that's a great question. You actually can use up to 50 blocks, which is huge compared to what you could do previously. So you have the option to make as many as 50 promotional blocks that you can place anywhere on your home page as you like. Okay, a few other questions here about PMI. Let me just make sure I'm reading this correctly. Oh, can you see examples? Yep, I shared. Thank you. I'm glad I shared those examples with you guys about the different features. Let's see, questions about PMI. We'll definitely send the image specs over to you guys, so you have that. I have questions about image specs. If we use PMI for our ad server, will there be any changes we will have to implement ourselves? There's just a different way that you are going to connect to Core Publisher now. So PMI will continue to serve your ads for you. Chachua and her staff have been made aware of how we have changed things in Core Publisher, but you should definitely sit in on the DFP training so you can know how that connection works, and you can tell Chachua, oh, I want to target this ad to this specific place, and she'll know exactly what you're talking about. We only have 2 ads and aren't interested in showcasing national content. Is that possible through DFP? Is there only 1 block available on the home page? We have 2 underwriters who are promised the home page. So if you currently don't use DFP, that's fine. You can use the promotional blocks to showcase those 2 underwriters if you want to. If you're not interested in using DFP, you don't have to use it. But it certainly is a place for you to showcase your ads if you are using that space right now. Okay, there's a lot of questions about DFP and ad units. That is actually our first training. It's going to be on DFP, and that is going to be on Wednesday this week. So you definitely want to bring those questions along with you, and we can talk more specifically about that. So next steps. We are going to reach out to you today with your access to your Backstage account. And a link for the registration for this Wednesday's training and this week's check-in call. You will either hear from myself or Keisha, and we'll be following up with you today. Just checking out to see if there's any more questions here before we end a little early. What questions about DFP? How many links is it possible to get above the fold for modular example? I'm not sure I understand that question, Cassandra. Maybe if you can elaborate a little bit more, or we can talk that through with you individually. That might be helpful. Just so everyone knows, River and modular are no longer going to exist. We basically took the best parts of River and the best parts of modular and made them into a new thing called responsive. So your site, your theme, it's kind of like your clothes, if you think of it that way. Aaron Martin used to explain it a lot in that dimension, that you're basically just changing your clothes. All of your content is going to still stay the same. You're not going to have to migrate your content anywhere. You're just putting on a new set of clothes. And that those clothes are considered the responsive theme. So modular and River are now combining into one responsive theme. So you're going to have a River block in responsive, but you're also going to use the layout manager, which people that were only in the River theme before never used. So it's combining the two into one great thing. Do we have to design our own promotional blocks, or is that something that is easy to create in the CMS? It is very easy to create in the CMS. You can find a logo, find a link, write some text, and upload it. So it is very easy to do. Will old audio and post still be available for old news stories? Absolutely. I think I just answered that a little bit when I said you don't have to migrate your content or move your content at all. We're just putting a new face on putting some makeup for a new face on your existing site. What is the biggest market that has adopted the new design change? We've had some pretty big stations move over so far. KUOW, VPR. I'm trying to think. We'll send along the list with our email today, so you have a list of all the stations that have gone live, so you can check out their sites and see what they're doing. Wow, there's a lot of questions that are coming in here. Will there be an NPR National Content Block? Yes, there will be an NPR National Content Block. It is not live right now. The team is still working on it. You will still get NPR content. It's going to flow into your River based on time and date stamp, so it will flow into your River along with your local content if you want to set it up that way. Or you can handpick which NPR stories you want to bring over, but yes, you will still continue to get NPR national content, but there isn't a separate block for it just yet. Will the persistent announcement have more than one link? Unfortunately, it doesn't, John. You only have one link for that persistent announcement. You can switch it out and change it over time, but you only do get one. The training sessions for Mondays and Wednesdays, right now we have them scheduled for this same time, so they're going to be 1 o'clock. And the check-in calls are going to be, we're going to have one schedule that'll be better for East Coast time and one schedule that'll be better for Central and West Coast time, so it gives you guys that flexibility. We'll make sure we send those out today so you guys can get those on your calendars. All right. I think I've gotten through all of the questions here. If you have any other questions, bring them along to our check-in calls and to our webinars this week, or you can send it directly to myself or Rakisha once you get your backstage access today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I apologize for the technical difficulties here. Thanks for sticking it out. It wasn't the slickest presentation I've ever done, but I really appreciate your time and attention. I look forward to working with you over the next 3 weeks, and I'm really excited about seeing your site go responsive. So look for email from me or Rakisha, and we hope you guys stay safe and warm if you are in this wonderful winter wonderland snowstorm that we're having today. All right, take care, everyone. You get a few more minutes back to your day. Thank you.